sharing a bit of a rainy afternoon with us. So anyway, we're here to talk about the fabulous new telephone system that we hope to bring to you all in about the next 12 months or so. You'll notice on the title slide here it says Educational Technology Advisory Committee Town Hall Meeting. So let me explain a little bit why it says that. So many of you may be familiar with the Educational Technology Advisory Council. Committee. This is a district-wide committee. It has folks from both campuses and central services, and the tech task forces from both colleges are part of this, and they provide a lot of advice and guidance on large-scale, broad-based projects and issues related to technology. And we had a retreat earlier this fall, and they said, you know, we really need to do a better job of getting out and talking to all the stakeholders throughout the district on both campuses. So how can we do that? And they came up with some great ideas about how to do that, and we're implementing several of them. And one of them is they said, you know, we really should get out there and have more town hall meetings and roundtable discussions and things of that sort so we can connect with more of our colleagues throughout the district. So let's start with the phone system. So here we are, and let's see, Dennis, you're on ETAC, and who else here is on ETAC by any chance? Just Dennis? Okay. So anyway, there are quite a few. There's about 20-some members on ETAC from both colleges and central services. So our telephone system, Town Hall, is the first one of the academic year. Some others that will be coming soon, probably soon after the holiday, is talking about our Office 365 conversion, so moving Office and other kinds of collaborative software to a cloud-based version that Microsoft provides. We'll be doing one on information security, coordinating technology purchasing, and then providing a major update on the online education initiative that our district leads for the state. So anyway, just a little plug for ETAC and some of the things that they want to do throughout the year, and we'll go from there. So, but today we are here to talk about the telephone system replacement. And this is really one of the most significant technology projects that the district has undertaken in the last several years. We are planning to replace the existing digital telephone system. It's been in place for about 15 years or so now, and it's getting a little long in the tooth and a little. It's beginning to become a little less reliable than we'd like it to be. It also doesn't really have a lot of the modern features that many colleges and universities and other kinds of agencies and companies would like to have in a telecommunications system. So we're really hoping to be able to add those kinds of leading edge or cutting edge technology communications features such as unified messaging or support for mobility or instant messaging and things of that sort. And I'll talk a little bit more about what each of those are in a minute. And this is one of the additional very large projects funded by Measure C, the network refresh, which is just about complete within the next couple of months. Lisa and her team have been working on. That was another big project, kind of a prerequisite for the telephone. And of course, Banner was another one of the big Measure C funded technology projects. So why are we replacing the telephone system? We actually get that question a lot. Well, a phone just works just fine. You know, why do we need a new one? And really, the answer to that is a couple of things. One is that the current system has reached its end of life, as we say in the IT world. Actually, Lisa and Sharon remind me that technically the system reached its end of life 12 years ago. So, and that has a couple of significant ramifications for us. One is we are beginning to experience failures with it. And the good news is that we have a really wonderful staff who are on top of this thing 24/7. And so when it breaks, generally you don't know about it because they fix it before anything can disrupt service or operations for either the campuses or central services. So they really stay on top of it. And it doesn't happen often, but it happens enough to concern us. The other problem with it is the manufacturer, Fujitsu, has not supported this system for quite a long time. And we've been able to buy maintenance agreements from other vendors, but those vendors have been dwindling over time in the last couple of years, and now there's really only one maintenance vendor that exists for this phone system. That makes us really nervous, because if they woke up tomorrow and decided, yeah, we're just not going to do that anymore, we'd really be in a world of hurt, because we have an incredible in-house staff that maintains the system for us, but sometimes we need to get parts on a 2-hour or 4-hour turnaround or things of that sort, and you can't do that without a maintenance vendor. Most importantly, the feature set in the current phone system is really kind of antiquated. It doesn't support a lot of the new and modern kind of productivity tools that a lot of people are beginning to associate with their phone system, like collaboration tools or instant messaging or a unified email voicemail inbox, things of that sort. And it just doesn't do those things. It wasn't designed to do those things, and when this thing was designed and manufactured quite a few years ago, a lot of those concepts didn't even exist. I mean, they're things that are often even new within the last 5 years. So it's really it's not going to serve us well going into the next 15 or 20 years. Also, with our network upgraded, we really have a capacity to deploy a software-based phone system or telecommunications system throughout the district, which we then can upgrade as often as we choose to. So if there's some new feature that comes out that's software-based, we can add that to our feature set and bring that out to all of you a lot faster and a lot easier than if we had to upgrade a hardware-based system, which we have now. So we're looking to have a level of flexibility to be able to migrate telecommunications features with the changing needs of our faculty and staff, our students, our administration, and so on and so forth. And then finally, we actually hope that we might be able to save a little money in maintenance, because as the maintenance field has dwindled, the cost has kind of gone up, and it's getting a little gnarly at the moment. So we hope to have a little more cost-effective maintenance program to support this going forward. So when will all this happen? We get that question a lot. Planning on this has been underway for quite a few months now, probably about, 8 or 10 months now, Lisa?
Yes.
There? And we've had Nick with us. Nick works for one of the leading consulting firms in California, and really has provided us with some incredible guidance. His firm is manufacturer agnostic, so they don't have any particular company that they represent, but they really have the capability to look across manufacturers, look across vendors, look across implementers, and really provide all of their clients, including us, the advice about what will fit you the best. So we have been doing that with Nick's help over the last many months, reviewing industry best practices. What are other colleges and universities doing? What are other public agencies doing? What are other corporations doing in terms of telecommunication services and what we call voice over internet protocol, or voice over IP, or VoIP, as some people say. What are the best practices nationally? How can we observe those and utilize those to our best advantage here at Foothill-De? And he's been enormously helpful, bringing all kinds of information about what other folks are doing, so we could benefit from some of the best thinking nationally on how to do this. We've been conducting district-wide focus groups for some of the specialized applications that we have, so admissions and records, or the police department, or other departments that have sophisticated calling needs other than just, I need a phone number on my desk. So we've had a lot of conversations with them. What do they need? What would they like to have different about a new phone system? What are the things that frustrate them about the current system that they'd like to have us address? And we've got a lot of information from our end users from that perspective. The final planning for the phone system is underway right now. We hope to wrap that up in about 30 days. The last piece of it, and this is one of your takeaways or your homework assignments, is we will be probably on Wednesday afternoon sending to every faculty, staff, and administrator in the district, an end user survey. It's very brief. I promise it'll only take you about 5 minutes to complete it. You'll get a link in your email to go to a SurveyMonkey survey to do this. Just to ask you some very brief questions about what do you like about the current system, what would you really like to have in a new system, what frustrates you about the current system, and then to ask you a couple of questions about how you feel about some of the default devices that we have been exploring for various classifications of folks throughout the district, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So that's coming out on Wednesday, we hope. We have our fingers crossed on that. It'll be open for 2 weeks, so we'd like to have everybody complete it by the 17th. So tell all your friends and colleagues throughout the campus that that's coming, and of course, if they want to review this session online before they fill out the survey, they'll have the opportunity to do that as well. Once we gather all that input from as many people as we can get to fill out that survey, that'll help us really dial in the specifications for the request for proposal that'll go out at the end of January. It'll be out on the streets, as we say, for probably 30 to 60 days, somewhere in there. And we'll begin to get those responses back from the companies that are interested in bidding on the system, probably in the March-April timeframe. We'll review and score those RFP responses and probably have some interviews with a couple of the finalists and talk more specifically about their systems, maybe even talk to other campuses that have implemented their products, and there are quite a few around the state that have done this already. And that'll conclude hopefully in May, and then we'll award the contract. We hope we'll be able to take that to the June board meeting, and as soon as that gets approved, then we'll begin the project implementation, hopefully in June. So before we conclude the spring quarter, we should have more details that we can send out to everybody in terms of implementation schedules and those kinds of things, so you can understand what will be happening over the summer and then what will be happening through the 15-16 academic year. Because it'll take us probably about 12 months to do the whole project from soup to nuts. Is that a good estimate, you think, Lisa? So anyway, that's the time frame as it stands today. So who's been involved in the planning? A little bit of an eye chart here, but we've had a pretty big steering committee that has been comprised of people from both campuses and from Central Services. So if you're interested in talking with them further or telling them, whatever you do, make sure you get this, these are the folks that you can touch bases with on your campus to let them know what you're interested in getting out of a new phone system, if you want to lobby them more directly. But we've had a pretty broad-based group of people looking at this for a better part of a year now. So let's talk a little bit about what might be new and different in a new telephone system, because it will really not be the same thing that everybody's used to, but I think it'll actually be better and more usable and more useful by all of us. So one of the things that we are hearing from a lot of stakeholders throughout the district is that the way that people are working is changing pretty dramatically. So that, for example, one of the things we know about a lot of, particularly our younger students, is try to reach them by email or telephone is really difficult. Send them a text message and they respond like that. And I've got two daughters, one who's 21 and one who's 24, and I know that trying to call them is impossible, but texting them is really pretty useful. So there's a lot of kinds of things that people want to be able to do in the course of whatever their job function is, whether you're a faculty member or an administrator or staff person, in interacting with each other or interacting with students or interacting with colleagues from other campuses and such, that our current phone system just doesn't do. And so, for example, whenever I try to call one of the senior administrators here at De Anza, they say, don't call me. Just, here's my cell phone number, just text me, because that way I'll get it and I'll respond to you. So there's a lot of new and different ways that people are working, and we need to be able to support them with a telecommunications system to do that. We also know that a lot of our folks are very mobile. they're moving back and forth between campuses. They're working from home one day, they're working on site another day. They may be on a field trip a third day or at a conference or some other kind of event, and they're all over the place. And they want to be able to have an easier way to make and take calls on their business line from wherever they might be. Because a lot of people, not very many people throughout the district have a district-issued cell phone. Most of us are using our personal cell phone, me included. And sometimes you don't necessarily want to expose your personal cell phone for business purposes, for any number of reasons. And so how can we help people use their business line when they're as mobile as they are now? And there's a lot of new options that modern telecommunication systems have that our current system does not support. The other thing too is that, speaking of mobile, is that most folks or many folks nowadays, their only phone is this phone. They don't have a landline, they don't have a wired phone in their house. This is their only phone. And over the last couple of years, the number of people who are provisioning mobile phone numbers versus landline phone numbers has dramatically increased. So, if you've got young adults in your family, both my girls, I'm sure will never have a landline phone in their home, and they don't currently. This is their only phone, and a lot of people have become really comfortable and really used to working that way. So we want to make sure that we have a system that can support that way of working for those people who prefer it that way. Handsets are changing a lot of if you go around campus, you find that almost all of the phones throughout the district look pretty much like this. It's kind of a one-size-fits-all solution. Sometimes it works really well. Sometimes it's not the best kind of phone for the environment. And so we do have a lot more options than we've ever had to provide a telephone instrument, a handset that best matches the need in any particular environment or for any particular kind of user or for any particular kind of service that we want to provide via the phone. So we don't have to go with the one-size-fits-all approach of the past. We can really match handset sophistication and handset displays and size and usability more directly to the task. So whether we're looking at a standard office use or something in a classroom or one of these other opportunities, we can better match that. So with that said, one of the things that we're looking at are the utilization of soft phones or computer-based phones. A few years ago, these became really popular, and as they become really more intuitive and more useful, a lot more people are finding, I don't need that plastic box on my desk anymore. I always have my computer on. I never go anywhere without it. Put my phone on my computer and let me use it that way. So we're looking at deploying a fair amount of soft phones or computer-based phones. This is now essentially a software application that gets installed on your computer. You use it with a handset or a headset. There are wired and wireless headsets that are available. And it allows you to use your district phone from wherever you have your computer and wherever you can get an internet connection, essentially. So if you're at home, you're at another campus, you're at a meeting in Sacramento, you're at a meeting at another campus, you're wherever you are, you're in your classroom, you're in a laboratory, it doesn't matter, you'll be able to use your phone if you have a soft phone on your computer. One of the things we'll be asking you in the survey is how you might feel about that and whether you think that would be an appropriate kind of phone for the way that you use telecommunications technology. Support for mobility, I talked a little bit about that a minute ago, but we have more and more people wanting to be able to integrate their cell phone or their smartphone with the college's or the district's business phone system. So for example, they want to be able to forward calls from their office phone to their cell phone because they're waiting for an important call, or they know this is a critical time for students and they want to be able to respond to them quickly. and we really don't have a lot of those capabilities right now, but we'll be exploring those with a new phone system so that people who choose to could really integrate their mobile phone with the district's phone system. Some people would like maybe to have their office phone ring on whatever phone they are closest to, whether it's their desk phone or a soft phone or their cell phone. We're looking at some of those kinds of possibilities so that it can ring wherever you may be, and you can get those calls and make calls that way as well. Some people have said, it would really be great if I could pick up a business call on my smartphone, and so, I'm coming back from lunch or I'm coming back from the other campus and I'm on my way and I grab that call, but I walk into the building and I really don't want to continue that call on my cell phone. I'd really like to just hand that off to my other phone in my office, whether it's a soft phone or a hard phone. Why can't I do that? Or vice versa. If I've taken a call in my office and I want to be able to continue that as I walk across campus or on my way home or whatever the case may be, can I do that as well? And so we'll be looking at some of those kinds of options to support mobility and integrate your mobile phone to the extent that you want it with the business system of the district. Unified inbox, and I apologize for the bit of the eye chart down below, but one of the things we're really looking at is integrating email and voicemail messages in one location. And some of you may be familiar with this if you use a service like Vonage at home. Whenever you get a voicemail, it shows up in your email box and kind of gives you a translation, and sometimes it gets it right and sometimes not quite so much. But at least you could play that message from your computer by clicking on the WAV file in the message, and you can hear that. I've implemented this at a couple of institutions. It's a very popular service. A lot of people really like it. It makes it easy to get your voicemail from wherever you may be. Makes it easy for you to then forward voicemail messages to other users in the system. So you can say, if you're a faculty member and you need your dean to hear a message you got from a student or something like that, you can send that on, or whatever the case may be. You can share those voice messages very, very easily. You can also then file voicemail messages in folders in your inbox, just like you would an email message. So if there's something that comes in as a voicemail and you need to keep it, then you can file it in a folder just like you would any other message. And I know that's been a particular problem for a lot of people, particularly in student services. We hear from a lot of them saying, I really have to keep this message, and our current voicemail system expires messages after X number of days, so I have to keep re-forwarding it to myself so I can hang on to it. And this will eliminate some of these. So if we had a little bit of clarity on that, you'd see a couple of lines in that inbox just say voice message, and you click on that and can listen to it from your computer or through your headset or whatever the case may be. So very nice feature. I think people will really enjoy that a lot. So what do you all need to know and do to be part of this project? The big thing we need you all to do, and tell all your friends and colleagues, when the survey comes out on Wednesday or thereabouts, please fill it out. It takes 5 minutes. We've timed it. And fill it out and get it back, get it submitted by December 17th. That'll be kind of the drop dead date for the survey. So we'd like to have as many people complete the survey as possible. That will really help us dial in the specifications for the RFP. And the closer we get, the closer the specifications are to what everybody ultimately wants to have, the cheaper it'll be for the district, and the better quality proposals we'll get from various vendors, the better information we have from all of you. Then after that, there's not much left to do until we get closer to summer, and so you'll want to look out in the June-July timeframe for conversion schedules. So the two systems, the existing system and the new system, will be kind of running in parallel for some time until we complete the conversion, and we'll begin working with folks from throughout both campuses and central services to schedule a conversion when it's as least disruptive as possible for your individual area or department. So we'll start building some of those conversion schedules and send those out and look for those. And if you've got ideas, or if we've scheduled it at a time that's just impossible, let us know so we can alter that. So that will come out in about 6 or 7 months. And then, of course, look for the training opportunities. We think most of this stuff is going to be pretty intuitive, that there's not a whole lot of training that needs to happen. Again, I've implemented systems like this a couple of places, and we scheduled lots and lots of training, and nobody came. And we said, well, how come nobody came to training? And they said, we just don't need it. We know how to make it work. But we'll have online training videos for some of the more sophisticated features of the system. And I'm sure we'll do some in-person workshops for people who really want to find out how to make this new system work for them. And particularly for those people who are in some of the larger offices that have some of the more sophisticated features or call branching or things of that sort that need some configuration and setup. So look for those announcements in the June-July timeframe and the training videos about that same timeframe. So that's it. So any questions or comments or concerns or rumors, or make sure you do this, make sure you don't do that. What input do you have for us that we can take forward for this project? So what have I left out? Yeah, John.
Well, I'm curious if anybody's ever implemented any of those soft phones and virtual desktops.
I don't know, but Nick might know.
A soft phone on a virtual desktop.
So the problem with a virtual desktop is that you can't get access to the ports on the actual phone, right, or on the actual computer. So you can do a soft phone on a virtual desktop, but the voice doesn't get through. So it depends on which virtual desktop you're talking about and how it would be implemented.
So you might have to have a more sophisticated thin client.
Yeah, if it's something like if it's a virtual desktop running on your actual PC that has access to the ports on the PC, like, are you talking about like a hosted one or like something on?
Any kind.
Yeah, so as long as it can get the voice out a physical port is the trick, and various virtual desktop providers have different capabilities to do that. So Citrix versus VMware versus whatever.
Oh, we're going to have VMware here. I was just, thin client, zero client, PC. I was just thinking ahead.
And we've asked for that kind of information in the RFP to say, how do you support virtualization?
Right.
So that'll certainly be a factor in the evaluation of the proposals that we get. So, yeah. Yeah.
So we'll, I'm sure that there will be a system put into place for part-time faculty who don't have a phone number per se, but have a voicemail box.
So we will do for part-time faculty almost the exact same thing we do for them right now. So they all have an extension number. It's not really connected to a handset per se, but it's really connected to a voicemail box, and they'll have access to it in a very, very similar fashion. And actually, it'll probably be easier because they'll just be able to get it through their email.
Okay,
So the support for adjunct faculty will be almost identical to what we have now. Is that a reasonable statement, Lisa or Sharon?
Yeah, I think that's what we're planning currently, because the adjunct faculty turn over so regularly, we haven't assigned them what we consider those direct dial numbers, and so they've shared basically phones, and then we've assigned them the voicemail so that they've got access for the students, and so we'll duplicate that.
And then certainly in some of the workspaces, the physical spaces that adjunct faculty have on campus, they'll be able to use phones in those areas, very similar to what we have now.
Are we thinking, Joe, that we're going to be able to keep the phone numbers that we have now, or will that be different?
I think they're going to pretty much be the same, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So no
ported
change in
over.
extension numbers.
I mean,
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, unless there's some decision to go like with 5 digits instead of 4 digits or something. I don't know, but no. Our plan is to keep it the same.
Yeah. April.
like the idea of the soft phones, and it really is, brings a lot of interesting, potential uses for the faculty, because especially like for online and hybrid classes, they now can communicate with the students and
Yep.
maybe have the potential of, oh, this is an interesting comment, and let's just load it into the class and for the class to hear or something, just interesting. So are we going to be, demoing some of this? Because I think it would be nice for faculty to actually see.
So
how it might-
once we have selected a provider, then we can really demo those features. We've had a lot of requests for demos, particularly on the soft phone, and we've been really kind of hesitant to do that because one manufacturer's soft phone can be very different from another manufacturer's soft phone. So we didn't want to demo something that we weren't prepared to provide to the colleges or to central services. But as soon as we've selected a provider, then we can begin to really provide people with demos of the actual stuff that we'll get from that. And I know lots of people want to see more about soft phones. So I think as soon as we've honed in on that provider, then we'll have the capacity to do that. So yeah. Pippa.
I wanted to talk about part-timers. At the moment, there's no way for the students really to contact them. So if they had a permanent telephone number that was assigned to them that would somehow go to their email, we could pull that information from Banner so that that person, even though they may not be teaching in one quarter, we still have a contact for
Permanent mailbox number.
for that individual, and they can put an away message perhaps if they're not teaching. So that was one thing. And pulling the information from Banner, I think is going to be critical for tone. And secondly, of course, you've already done this, but we need to have an ability to page for emergency and be able to do all that. So
yeah, we've spent a lot of time in the specifications we've developed already in seeing what the capabilities are for using the phone system as essentially an emergency broadcast system. And we have some limited capabilities right now with our current phone system, but they're very, very limited, and they really don't. It's really not what we need. So we'd like to be able to have something that we could broadcast to every single phone anywhere on the campus, or maybe even zone it off to say, well, just this building or just this part of campus. So we definitely have included those kinds of specifications in the RFP that we've worked out already, because definitely we want to be able to have that capability. Sure. Yeah.
Right now, when the network goes down, we have a phone number to call for ETS. If the communication system is tied to the network, how do we contact ETS when the network goes down?
Sure, that is a good question. And so it will vary tremendously based on location. So the phone system, the core of the phone system will be on backup power. So if the network goes down, the phone system doesn't necessarily go down. If it depends, but there's also components in each building that have to be powered as well. So depending on what the backup power situation is per building, that will vary building by building. Do you have a more intelligent response than that?
Well, that's basically where
Pardon?
we're.
There are also failures that have nothing to do with power.
True,
So,
true.
what about those kind?
Yeah, so
Well, let me address that. First, on the power issue, it really does depend on location. This project didn't underwrite UPS or, battery backup or generator for buildings that don't currently have it. So if power goes to a building, it will drop the network as well as VoIP phones. In a lot of places, we've had analog facilities, and that's something we're looking at, like for an emergency phone within a building, to see if we can provide some emergency for situations like that. In buildings that have power, obviously, those systems will stay up.
Sure.
In terms of network reliability, because now the phone is going to be riding on top of the network, is one of the reasons why we were doing the network refresh and the infrastructure upgrades prior to the bid for the phones. because it was critical for us to have newer equipment, more reliable equipment, and things that we can monitor and maintain. And we're nearing the end of our installations at both campuses, so we
So-
feel like we'll be in a good position to support the voice over IP phones in almost all locations.
I mean, we do have network failures that are not related to power, but not very many. Even
It's
in our
gotten much better.
even in our
with the new
current
equipment.
network infrastructure, we still don't have a lot. When we complete the network refresh, it should be pretty rock solid. So will it never go out? Never say never. It will. Things happen.
And what then?
And then pull the phone out of your pocket.
That
and
I don't
call
have.
us. Well,
Somebody's.
That's
somebody nearby probably does, but I mean, that's what we'll have to do. Nick,
So, and one other point, so, I mean, a lot of times we will talk about sort of the network going down. I mean, networks with current equipment, rarely like go hard down. I mean, if there's a, one piece of hardware that goes down, it might just take down, 48 people or something like that. But an actual network outage typically is more like the internet's down or our connection to the server is down. And people say, well, the network's down, but the network's actually up. It's just that you can't get anywhere. This phone system would actually be on-premise here, so we wouldn't be reliant on the internet or some cloud-hosted provider or anything like that. All the equipment would actually be on-site. So if you could get across the network to do other types of things within the network, you would still likely be able to get through for the phone systems.
I mean, I would never say it will never go
No,
down.
but-
We just would never say that. But having done this twice before, actually the outages that I've experienced are incredibly rare. And certainly with the new infrastructure that Lisa and her team have put in, I think that will be the case for us. So will it never go down? It will someday, probably. Something will happen. But it's I mean, it's pretty reliable given our new infrastructure and certainly the resiliency of modern voice over IP phone systems. They're pretty good. So yeah.
We have a number of analog phone lines in our area, Joe, for audio conferencing. Are we going to be able to keep those?
I don't know. I mean, if you need them, I
mean,
guess.
that's part of the final count and survey is the analog phone lines, and we're looking specifically at what they were deployed for, and then the question will be whether or not we can change or upgrade those or provide the service in a different way.
Same with
So
faxes?
Correct. Things like faxes may not be most efficiently handled by separate analog lines everywhere, so we may be looking at retiring fax lines as we move along and maybe go with fax servers as an alternative.
Yeah, in my ideal world, every phone number could be a fax number. So you can hand out your business card and it has one number on it for voice or fax, and the voice system is smart enough to tell what's coming in and says, oh, this is not a phone call, let me send it to the fax, and then it shows up in your inbox. That would be my ideal world. Will we get there in the first phase of the new phone system? Not sure.
That would be my ideal because my work number has managed to get on a junk spammers list and I get calls at 3 a.m. in pairs, and if I couldn't avoid them,
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
not be my ideal world.
So we'll see what comes out of that. Yeah.
So will the phones in the classrooms be replaced too?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They will. Yeah. And then in the classrooms, there are some classrooms where we don't have phones. We'll try to make sure we have phones in every single classroom. So that's one of the goals. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to go back to emergency preparedness again. Two other things that popped into my mind was currently in Banner there is I believe there's a place to put a location, but we're not using it. And I think that would be critical with this, that we could ask that update, because then if an area did go down, we are not relying on people trying to remember who's in what area. We could go into Banner, pull a report, we have the telephone numbers, we have the emails, and we could send out targeted messaging. I think that's going to be critical. And My other thing has gone. Thank you.
So you bring up a good point, because when we run into this on a number of different fronts, and I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here, and I wish my friend and colleague Chin was here because he could speak to it more directly. But we have not used the location data in Banner very well, period, throughout the district. And that really inhibits us in a variety of ways, in terms of how it integrates with room scheduling like R25, how it integrates effectively with things like Google Maps, so that we can get more precise location data that we could provide to students on their smartphone or what have you, things of that sort. So this is probably a good opportunity for us to re-examine how we've used those fields in Banner so we could use them more precisely. So there's a couple of components of that. One is kind of doing an audit of that initially, updating all of that. That's a fair amount of work, but not undoable. And then putting the processes in place to make sure that we keep it current over time, because as people come and go and move, we don't necessarily have the processes in place to keep track of all that and make sure that we keep it current. Because if it's not current, then it's not any more useful than not having it at all.
We've actually worked a bit on that, so I think we have some good input for that.
Okay.
And I just remembered my second thing was emergency preparedness. The emergency EOC center currently, could you work on the police and that, because we've got faxes and some lines that may need some specific.
So we've been,
I know you guys already know that,
we've been working with Jerry Schlesinger from the campus police to go through each of the EOCs and make sure that all the phone numbers are identified and placed correctly, so that we'll have an accurate count of both campuses' EOC setups.
And those are places where we probably also have some additional analog lines that are survivable beyond, if we had some catastrophic event on one or both of our campuses, we'd want to have some backups to the backups, and those would be in the EOC. So we're working on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mine's kind of along the same lines, but it's more for safety. The 911 situation. We have a panic button because we're sitting in the office by ourselves, and then that signals somebody else to call the district police.
So kind of unrelated to the phone system, we are looking at some new panic alarm technology that is more easily and more cost effectively deployed to various locations. So, and then also has multiple kinds of response types. So when in a panic button situation or some kind of emergency situation, you don't always need or want the police to come. You may want a supervisor to come out, or some other person to help, or you might want medical attention. So we're looking at some systems that are a lot more flexible, that can be installed in a lot of different locations pretty cost effectively, and then can have customized workflow to say, well, if I hit the button, that means one thing. If I start an alert from my computer, that means another thing, and I can indicate what kind of emergency I'm having so I get the right response. Because sometimes we need the police, but not always. And sometimes having the police come makes things worse than it make them better. So it depends. So we are looking at those kinds of things. We actually have the Chancellor's Cabinet asked me to pull together a team from both campuses and central services to begin developing alarm protocols, so that we can say, okay, in this kind of situation, with these kinds of circumstances, in this location, we use this kind of alarm, and in other places we use that kind of alarm. So we're working on that right now. It's not really related to this project, but it sort of is, but kind of working in parallel. So yeah, Dennis.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned texting, because that is the one thing we keep hearing about, and many students don't even have their voicemail set up at all. So
Right,
even
sure.
if you try to leave them a message, you can't. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but they'll get back to you with a text in a heartbeat. And so people want to have a way to send a student or multiple students texts without having to expose their, personal device, because that's, they want to maintain that level of privacy. So, yeah, we hope to be able to provide that service through what we do here. Yeah.
So in our office, we have a front desk phone.
Uh-huh.
Is this new system going to be able to, like, take that phone if it rings and it doesn't get answered? Could it filter off to somebody's other desk, or could they choose to go to somebody's?
Yeah, that's.
Yep.
We have that in
So
our area.
I think the answer to all those questions is yes, yes, and yes, but maybe Nick wants to respond to that more precisely.
Yeah.
So it can go off to a queue of some sort, or?
I mean, there will be some departments that have sort of more of a formalized queue where it plays messages and maybe stacks up, and typically that functionality is extra cost. So we need to evaluate what departments need that level of it, I would imagine Lisa and Sharon know, your department. I think there's certain ones that we've already qualified for that sort of functionality. But just as far as a standard overflow where it rings one phone, then rings another phone, or rings a group of phones, that is base functionality in most of the current phone systems. And then what we would do is when we go to the implementation of the project, we'll do some final design specifications to, when we're getting ready to actually implement the system, and say, okay, what's your main number for the department? Where should it ring? And if it doesn't get answered, where should it ring next? And what happens after hours? And there's some departments that have very extensive messaging as well. So we'll determine all of that when we get to the implementation.
So we do that kind of on a department by department basis. So that's another reason to kind of look out for those implementation schedules, because you want to make sure that all the right players from your department are available to say, okay, this is how we want it to work. And and of course it's all software based, so we can program it and reprogram it and program it again if your needs change over time. So
Great,
yes.
thank you.
And along the same lines, we can also have, like we currently do, a phone ring in two places at once.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Two different phone numbers, say, these two are, okay, good.
Yep, sure. We can make it ring and ring and ring and ring again. Whatever you need, yeah. So. Other questions, concerns? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just need a reminder. So what was the earliest for starting a rollout on this?
Probably you won't see much activity before June, I think. That's probably even a little wishful thinking. So if we get through the RFP process expeditiously, we'll be able to get more details out in the June timeframe. We'll try to get those out as quickly as we can. But a lot of the, once we choose a provider and put together a preliminary implementation plan, it's probably going to be close to commencement, I would think. And then, we realize a lot of people are gone over the summer, particularly our faculty colleagues. So, we'll have to, take that into consideration. So, we don't put together any plans that are just unworkable for a given department or a given program or a given office, whatever the case may be. So probably stuff will start showing up for people to say, does this work for you, in the July, August timeframe realistically. So, but we'll get it out as soon as we can, knowing that we're going to lose attention of some of our friends and colleagues in that July, August timeframe. So, yeah.
So you'll be maintaining two systems during next summer?
Yeah.
Because I know student services, that tends to be their peak time, and
Sure.
during a communications.
Sure. Well,
change
so typically what I have done when I've done this before is sometimes, particularly for busy offices, you might have both phones on your desk simultaneously, and then depending on how we're able to make that work, So there would really be no downtime for anybody. So we put the new phone out, it might not ring yet, and then work with you to make sure that, is this a good cutover day? Are you ready for the new phone? Have we programmed it all properly? And then you tell us when it's convenient for the cutover. But the systems will be running in parallel, for the better part of 12 months as we kind of migrate office by office to the new system. So shouldn't be any disruption for anybody, more than a couple of minutes for us just to move one extension over from the old system to the new. So. Okay, well, we will do our best to keep you all informed as the project progresses. Please tell your friends and colleagues to look out for the survey and to fill it out as soon as it shows up in your email box. It really will only take about 5 minutes. There's just a few short questions. It's pretty. I think it'd be pretty easy for everybody to answer. You probably didn't even need to get all this information to be able to respond accurately to the survey. So this is not a seeing this presentation or listening to the recording is not a prerequisite for completing the survey, but it might be helpful for some people. But anyway, we'll get that out this week. We'd love to have it back by the 17th. And then we'll compile all of that input from everybody who responds to help us finalize those specifications for the RFP. Sharon, you had a...
The email will come from me.
Yes.
So
look out for that. So tell your friends and colleagues, look for that survey and fill it out and get it back as quickly as you can. And if you have any other questions or concerns, let me know, let Sharon know, let Lisa know. We'll be happy to respond to you as quickly as we can. If you'd like us to come to a department meeting or something like that to talk more specifically about this, we'd be happy to do that anytime. Let us know, and we'll come over and be part of that conversation with whomever wants to have that conversation. I know particularly for some of the high traffic, high student service departments, making sure that transition is smooth is really a big concern, and I think we've got everybody covered, but we'd be more than happy to come and talk further with you about it. So anyway, thanks for coming out this afternoon, and stay dry and drive safely.
Hello? Okay, so.